Let me tell you how it will be.
Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. And I'm going to spend some time, you know that music, with Bob Loeser. Taxman Bob, we call him around here. And but unlike the Taxman, he's someone I look forward to seeing. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Doing great. It's already March.
Can you believe
the
that?
Ides of March are upon us.
It is the last month of the first quarter.
Yes.
Of 2015. You
Yes.
know, which, you know, when I was 13, I thought, 2015, we'd all be flying around in Jetson-style vehicles, and, we'd be way more ahead of the curve than we are. But I do know this much. Time is flying.
Or as Leonard Nimoy would say, beam me up, Scotty, there's no intelligent life down here.
Amen to that. And I'm glad you mentioned him, because I have not mentioned that on the radio,
Really?
his passing, which, that was...
Yep.
I was actually a little choked up by that.
Yeah.
So, victim...
Although years get by us all. I mean, he was, 83?
83,
Yeah.
and he died of COPD-related, illness. And he gave up smoking 30 years ago and still ended up having COPD. That just shows you that, but who knows how many years he got giving up 30 years ago.
Correct.
Correct.
So, and then you have George Burns on the other side smoking, a pack of cigars a day.
Till he was 100, right?
Right.
So, yeah. I think cigars, I do think cigars are less dangerous than cigarettes.
Right.
I think.
I agree with you.
So, but I was, I was still kind of choked up. I was kind of sad by the whole deal. I think he was a phenomenal actor. I think he could have been an even greater actor than he was if he hadn't gotten such a narrow niche.
Stereotyped into.
But I saw him on stage. I saw him play Sherlock Holmes in Detroit.
Really?
And it was amazing.
Was it?
And look, it's Spock, and he's now Sherlock Holmes. What did he do with his ears? But anyway, it was awesome. But I'm glad you mentioned I hadn't given him tribute. Speaking of tribute, how's that for a segue? We all have to give tribute to the great government, with our monies. What's going on in the tax front?
Well, as you're all aware, if you haven't counted the days, there's 5 weeks left until the April 15th deadline. What's kind of interesting is, and please be aware, and I'm not making this statement to scare or alarm, I'm just to notify. There are scam artists out there at present. They're doing one of two things. They're calling innocent individuals saying, your 2012 tax return has been audited, and if you send us $1,219 to this address, it'll be resolved and we'll clear it up. But they will not give, or if they do give a phone number, it's a cell phone, untraceable cell phone number. And or they will not give what is called a badge number. So if and when an IRS agent, no matter who it is, calls and says, I represent the IRS, the first thing you ask for is your badge number and the location, full location, address, and zip code of the office that they are contacting you from. Second scam that's going on is...
And even after you do that, don't send any money. but at least do that, because that'll tell you really quickly whether or not they're for real.
And then notify your tax advisor. The second scam that's going on is people are getting hold of Social Security numbers, and because of the quick e-file now, they are filing fraudulent tax returns by dummying up a W-2. Let's say... didn't work for anybody. They dummy up a W-2 that says I made $40,000 and I had $15,000 taken out of my check. They have false deductions, and by the time it's said and done, the refund comes to $12,000. They put it under William Smith's name and Social Security number, send it to a different address, get the check, and have somebody on the inside bank-wise to cash the checks for them. I've actually had 2 clients in the last 6 weeks notify us that they were contacted by the IRS saying, did you file a tax return? One thing that the IRS will give them credit for is they are noticing changes to, I'm going to say, your lifestyle. For example, if last year, 2013, you filed husband and wife, 2 W-2s, you had stock gains and losses, you got 3 rental properties, and you got 4 partnerships, and the next year someone falls fictitiously for you that doesn't put your wife on and kids, only has 1 W-2 and has none of the other related materials, the IRS has sort of a red flag go up.
Yeah.
And then ask, did you file this return? So there's been 2. But please note, if and when they catch this situation, what they will do to make sure in the future that it doesn't happen again to you, the IRS is using a special PTIN number, that's PTIN, which is a personal identification number that you will file with your Social Security number, and only that PIN number and Social Security number will allow the IRS to, quote, process your tax return. But please be aware, because it's becoming more prevalent with two things happening: the e-file and the fact that you can direct deposit into one's account.
Yeah.
So you can set up a dummy account in the name of Will Smith, as long as you can prove to the bank that you're Will Smith, have the money directed to your bank account, then sweep it out and disappear.
Let me ask, what is it? I mean, is it typical for us to have scams around the IRS, or do they seem to be popping up more often these days?
There seem to be popping up more often because I think the fear factor and say lack of trust, the issue if somebody calls, and I've had a client call recently with the phone scam and said, so-and-so called, and I said, do me a favor, I said, call back the number, and I said, then ask for the individual and ask for their badge number. Mm-hmm. And they did, and it went to like a voicemail, and it wasn't a voicemail saying, this is Will Jones with the IRS, badge number such and such. It basically, please leave a message, which is not an authorized government phone line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question about it. And what is it about the IRS now all of a sudden being a sexy scam? Is it just because of how much weight? I guess it's probably the weight, right? The gravitas that would come if a government agency contacts you?
It's that.
Yeah.
I got a call from the IRS. What should I do? Well,
right.
You need to ask these questions. You haven't been notified in writing, have you? Well, no. Well, then they don't pull your name out of a phone book, or they do, actually, in this case. They don't pull your name out of a phone book and then just go down and go, hey, let's call Linda Thompson, and let's see if Linda is willing to give us a $1,219 check.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, maybe some will, or the elderly will. I advise that you contact your advisor, talk with them, and they will strategically give you your directive as to what you need to do. But I think it's becoming more aware, because what's the government going to do? They're not going to catch us. I actually had, about 6 years ago, a client who had about a $32,000 refund coming. They asked for, they filed e-file. They didn't get their money in the 2 or 3 weeks. They notified the IRS, and about 5 weeks later, they got a call from it wasn't Secret Service, but it was something related, a branch of the FBI, and said, we think there's a scam going on. Their check, although they live in Houston, was cashed at a local bank in Atlanta, Georgia. And, what they found out was somebody was deferring these checks somehow, some way, to an individual in Atlanta who was going in because a friend of theirs worked at Bank of America or wherever it was, and would cash the checks for him with a kickback.
Incredible.
And they caught him. But
what about legitimate tax things that people should be aware of besides the obvious IRS?
Well, I mean, gathering up your information, of course, as to, brokerage houses. Another side note: the Merrill Lynches of the world used to have until January 31st to get your 1099s to you. Then it was moved to February 15th, and now it's actually been moved to March 15th, because the response is sort of, well, we've got a lot of things in different directions coming in at us, and we want them to be accurate. So as a result, give us more time. Well, that doesn't give us as preparers more time. Mm-hmm. So please note that you might be waiting on those things, but mortgage and property taxes, charitable contributions, gifts to Goodwill and things of that nature, tuition for your kids going to college. Those types of things. If you had some energy credits for solar paneling or whatever, there are some vehicles out there, electrical vehicles, that you get up to $7,500 credit on this year's return if you purchase that vehicle. In addition, vehicles, if you paid sales tax purchase before December 31st of 2014, that sales tax would be deductible. If you closed on a house, buy or sell, there are closing items on there, property taxes, interim interest, points, loan origination fees that ask your advisor. They may be deductible and help you diminish your tax due or increase your refund. So
always important stuff for people to keep up with. I think the best thing to do is contact Taxman Bob at pdq.net. That's by email, taxmanbob at pdq.net. I strongly recommend that you do that. And also your phone number.
713-953-1272. It's 713-953-1272.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, we didn't talk about Netanyahu's speech.
Oh, yeah. Real quickly, your thoughts on that earlier this week. I thought Awesome. It sure made me wish we had a leader.
I think, and I wonder this facetiously: if we allowed a Muslim to be president, could we allow a Jew from Israel to become president?
Boy.
And just a thought for you people out there. I'm not asking or answering. I'm just giving you some thought. What it's amazing is he got 24 standing ovations in a 40-minute period.
Yeah.
And he basically is being blunt. Okay, if they can aim their missile at Israel, you don't think they're possibly if England ticks them off, they're going to aim it there. And what happens if they literally take out London? We finally going to wake up and go, oh, it couldn't happen to us. You know, the Holocaust was just fiction. Well, guess what? Okay,
right.
You either stop it, but now, or it's going to cost you later. And it's not. You think it's only Israel. No, it's not only Israel. It's the region. It's London. It's anybody that gets in the way of those crackpots in Iran. And they are crackpots. Crackpots are spelled with a C, not a K.
and also something that people I don't think realize is that half of the Jewish population in the world is in the United States.
Right.
And so once you give that kind of capability to Iran, right. To me, I don't even have to be a Christian to be sympathetic to Israel. To me, it's an existential issue for me as an American. Right. I want a strong, healthy, and protected Israel.
Correct.
And the second thing is that your point about England is well put. We all know that Nazis let the British escape, when they invaded France because they were hoping to work out a deal with the British because they thought they were more alike. I tell you right now, Iran hates us just as much as they hate the Jews. I mean, maybe not quite as much.
Right.
Because they're both monotheistic. That's part of the problem. Right. But they hate us because the vast majority of us are polytheistic. Right. With our Christian view. Right. And so they would love to take out England, and they'll take out whatever a missile will get them to.
Right. I mean, I think the issue is what was interesting is they tried to make this Democrat and Republican rather than the nation as a whole. And so the president doesn't show up, and the vice president doesn't show up. Pelosi looks like she's fallen asleep, in the chamber.
I was amazed she went, actually.
Right, but they were told, the Democrats were told not to show up. And interestingly enough, 80% showed up?
Yeah.
And they were all a part of the group that was standing and giving applause?
Yep.
So maybe it's time to wake up and smell what's really they're shoveling.
Yeah.
Over there. No agreement is not no agreement. It's a bad agreement if you do sign an agreement giving them 10 years to basically put everything on hold. Because, we can trust them. It's not like they've got underground laboratories that basically, they're doing what they're not supposed to be doing, but don't tell anybody.
So the producer's shooting one finger at me, and it's not the middle one yet, but that's what comes next if we don't hurry up and get off. But I'm with you entirely. Taxman Bob Loeser is what we call him. Taxman Bob at pdq.net. Thanks for your insight.
No, don't push me out the door. No, Kevin.
All right, when we come back, much more for you right here on The Price of Business.
It will be. There's one for you.